Before anyone ever said, "I love you," someone had to come back. That sounds simple until you remember what coming back meant almost 2 million years ago. No streetlights, no locked doors, no emergency room, no grocery store waiting at the end of the day, just heat, hunger, predators, broken bones, rival groups, and a world where one wrong turn could erase you from history. And yet, somewhere in that world, one of our ancestors walked away from safety, found food, carried it back, and gave it to one specific person. Not the whole crowd. Not whoever happened to be standing there. One person. I noticed that we usually tell the story of love backward. We act like romance began when humans got civilized enough to write poems, build cities, and sit under soft lighting pretending not to check their phones. But the deeper I look at the evidence, the more it seems like love was not a luxury we invented after survival became easy. Love may have been one of the reasons survival became possible at all. To understand that, we have to go much further back than dating apps, wedding rings, or even language. Around 3.5 million years ago, our ancestors were not fully human yet. They were small-brained, upright-walking primates, still closer to the edge of the animal world than anything we would recognize as modern people. But something important was changing in their bodies. As bipedalism became more central, the size gap between males and females began to shrink. Scientists call that gap sexual dimorphism. In many primates, a huge size difference usually means one male is physically dominating access to multiple females. Think gorillas. One massive male, many females. Constant competition. Power decided by intimidation. But when male and female body sizes move closer together, the mating system often changes. Brute force becomes less important. Cooperation starts to matter more. Staying near one partner starts to make more sense than simply winning one violent contest after another. Contrary to common belief, the first step toward love may not have been a kiss, a poem, or a promise. It may have been standing upright. Because once our ancestors changed how they moved, they also began changing how they lived together. Then, around 1.8 million years ago, with Homo erectus, we see another clue. More organized food sharing. And this is where the story gets strangely intimate. In evolutionary terms, sharing food is expensive. Calories are survival. Meat is risk. Energy is never free. So when a male brings food back to a particular female and her offspring, that behavior is not random kindness. It suggests a bond. It suggests some level of trust. It suggests that the children being fed matter to him. That is not dinner in the modern sense. That is ancient commitment with teeth marks on it. And maybe that is why love still feels so serious. Some part of us remembers that being chosen was never just romantic. It was survival. And once love becomes part of survival, something strange begins to happen. The body is no longer the only thing being selected. The mind starts to matter. Creativity starts to matter. Beauty starts to matter. Because at some point, humans did not just try to stay alive. They started trying to be noticed. Around 100,000 years ago, archaeologists begin finding signs of personal ornamentation, pierced shells, red ochre, carved beads, objects worn on the body not because they made anyone faster, stronger, or harder to kill, but because they meant something. And that detail is easy to underestimate. A shell necklace does not stop a lion. A streak of ochre does not cook food. A bead does not heal an infection. From a cold survival perspective, decoration looks almost useless. But I think that is exactly why it matters. When a person spends time making something beautiful in a dangerous world, that object becomes a signal. It says, I have imagination, I have skill, I have enough control over my life to care about more than panic. I can turn the world into meaning. And in the language of attraction, meaning is powerful. This is why the distance between an ancient shell bead and a modern dating profile is smaller than we like to admit. The tools changed, the impulse did not. We still arrange ourselves to be chosen. We still edit the first impression. We still ask, without saying it directly, do you see something in me worth coming closer to? But here is the part that feels even more human. Some of those shells and beads appear far from where they naturally came from, which suggests trade, travel, and exchange across long distances. That means these were not just decorations. They may have been gifts, objects with a story attached to them. And a gift is not just an object. A gift is memory made physical. It says, I carried this thought of you across space. I saw something, and instead of keeping it for myself, I wanted it to belong to you. That raises a bigger question. If ancient humans could use objects to signal desire, could they also love beyond desire? Could they care when there was nothing obvious to gain? This is where the story turns from attraction to attachment. In Shanidar Cave, in what is now Iraq, archaeologists found the remains of a Neanderthal man who had lived with serious injuries and disabilities. His right arm was badly impaired. He had signs of trauma. He may have had vision problems. In a world with no hospitals, no antibiotics, and no welfare system, a person like that should not have survived for decades alone. But he did, which means others helped him. They fed him, protected him, kept him inside the circle. And to me, that is one of the most important clues in the whole history of love. Because attraction asks, what can you give me? Attachment asks a much deeper question. Who are you to me when you can give me nothing back? And that question changes everything. Because once you understand love as attachment, not just attraction, the brain starts to make sense. By roughly 300,000 years ago, Homo sapiens had a brain built much like ours. The emotional systems were already there. Dopamine helped make one person feel rewarding. Oxytocin helped turn closeness into bonding. Vasopressin helped connect attachment with protection, loyalty, and yes, sometimes jealousy. That part is uncomfortable, but important. Jealousy is not a modern glitch caused by social media, read receipts, or someone liking the wrong photo at 1:12 a.m. Those things just give an ancient alarm system more buttons to press. If your brain evolved in a world where losing a bond could mean losing food, protection, children, and social safety, then of course attachment would feel intense. Of course rejection would hurt. Of course being replaced would feel like danger. I'm not saying jealousy is noble. I am saying it is old. And once you know that, you get a choice. You can let the ancient alarm drive the whole car, or you can recognize it, breathe, and ask what the bond actually needs now. That is the lesson modern love keeps forgetting. Our nervous system was built for slow trust, repeated presence, shared labor, and being known over time. But we now try to run that ancient system inside a world of instant replies, endless options, curated photos, and people disappearing without explanation. No wonder love feels confusing. The mechanism is ancient. The environment is new. And maybe that is why music still reaches places language cannot. The oldest confirmed musical instruments, carved from bird bone and mammoth ivory, are about 40,000 years old. But singing, rhythm, dancing, and the human voice are almost certainly older than the objects that survived in the ground. Before a person could write a love letter, they could make sound. Before they could say, I miss you, they could hum across the fire. Before they could explain devotion, they could move in rhythm with someone else and feel, for a moment, less alone in the dark. That is what I find most moving about this whole story. Love did not begin as something polished. It began as food carried back through danger, a shell placed in someone's hand, a wounded body kept alive by others, a sound made beside a fire because ordinary speech was not enough. So maybe the real question is not, why is love so hard? Maybe the better question is, why would we expect something this old to ever feel simple? If this story made you think of someone, do not just scroll away, send it to them. Or better, say the thing you have been editing in your head. Because somewhere inside you, older than language, older than cities, older than every rule we invented around romance, there is still a human being asking one ancient question. Will you come closer? And will you stay?